Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. This is where accounting professionals come to learn the most efficient and powerful ways to grow their accounting firms, sharpen their sales skills, and really have a path to creating consistent increased revenue. I cover topics from networking, pricing, ideal clients, how to handle objections, how to handle you're too expensive, and how to set boundaries with clients so you can stop giving away your time and expertise away for free and really start getting paid your value and your worth. You'll learn tips and strategies and also hear personal interviews from successful accounting professionals and others in the industry. This podcast will show you exactly how to create the firm and life of your dreams full of abundance. Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. Our special guest is an eccentric entrepreneur with the heart of a lion and the soul of a house cat. Our special guest loves approaching problems from a different perspective and analyzing always different solutions. And his why is about empowering all growth-minded entrepreneurs in his reach to thrive and prosper. He has a passion for working with unique personalities who also share the same virtues and empathy and integrity in everything they do. Our special guest did the high school thing and has his credentials, but his real value comes from his questioning mind on the Accounting High podcast and the grit to push through any adversity as an OK rapper, aka OKR. Our special guest lives in Raleigh and also has a beautiful wife named Juana, and they have 3 intelligent kids, Julia, Frankie, and Aria. But before we welcome our special guest to the show, if you're ready to stop settling for less in your accounting, tax, or bookkeeping firm, then this is for you. Because I've seen it all around you. Accountants, firm owners, bookkeeping firm owners grinding 14-hour days with little or nothing to show for it. And to be honest, it's probably not the firm that you've always wanted to grow. You've wanted something different. You've wanted to charge the fees that you know you deserve. You want to serve the clients that are high quality, high value paying clients. And you actually want to have time for yourself and to do the things that matter to you. I've helped hundreds of accounting, tax, and bookkeeping firm owners gain the freedom, get paid first, and I know our system works. But you must take that next step. So head on over to theabundantcall.com to book your free session. And we'll discuss where your firm's at right now, what's holding you back, where you want to be, and how to get paid first and avoid all the failures along the road, and how and what you need to do to double your firm revenue. So once again, head on over to theabundantcall.com, and I look forward to speaking to some of you. And now let's welcome our special guest, Scott Scarano, to the show. Welcome, Scott, to the show.
What up? How's it going?
What up? Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. It's awesome to have you here. I've already done your intro, but for those that don't know who you are, can you please introduce yourself? Because I think it's always more powerful coming directly from you.
So, Scott Scarano, also known as OKR, as OK Rapper. Get that out of the way. I do some rap stuff for accountants, but I have an accounting firm. Been doing this for 15 years. And I also have a podcast, which is like a high school, Accounting High, which is more of a platform. We do tournaments. We just do fun stuff for accountants. But yeah, I don't know. I've only been doing that for a couple of years now. I got out of the work at my firm. Kind of worked myself out of a job. Yeah.
I want to talk about how you worked yourself out of a job today and how you were able to grow the firm revenue to sustain itself and step out, because I think that's pretty much every client I've ever worked with at the Abundant Accountant, that's their dream. You know, even though sometimes and to the point where now you started yourself another job
Well, interesting. Exactly. But interesting anecdote. So I just saw my friends from high school over the weekend. It was like a little reunion that we had never had. We graduated over 20 years ago. And I'm like, I had been talking about doing the rap stuff and all that back in high school. Like that's all I ever wanted to do.
Oh,
So they
wow.
knew
Now
me
you're
as that.
doing
That's
it.
what they knew me as.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they are so much more impressed with the business stuff than they are with the rap stuff. The rap stuff is just like nothing to them. They like it. You know, they had seen it online before. And like I had just performed at another conference. And so I've been doing my dream. That's all I've ever wanted to do. And they are so much more impressed by the business stuff and what I did with my firm. Some of them are my clients too. So they, they've been paying attention to the stuff and they never see me at the firm. Like I'm never there anymore. I used to be the face of the firm. And that's what they knew. That's why they can't, that's why they would be clients in the first place. Because
so
it was
awesome.
Well,
you started your firm 15 years ago.
I would say probably like 13.
13 years ago.
I'm just rounding. Yeah.
And you stepped out how many years ago?
A couple. I think it's been a little over, I would say fully stepped out, probably about 2 years at this point.
So you did it for 11 years.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. So share with us the journey, because I think there's a lot of firm owners that aspire to grow a firm, step out, still generate some revenue recurring, taking distributions and having their legacy live on.
Yeah.
And being able to step away and trust someone to run the firm to the point where now you have accounting high, you're able to do what you always wanted to do since you were in high school and do raps. And you will be doing one here today. Yeah,
for sure.
We want to hear what happened at Scaling New Heights. I at least do.
Dope. Yeah, I can play that one. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But
so do you want some hard numbers? We want to like at least
I do. Yeah.
Most people don't like to talk about the numbers, but I'll talk about all of them.
I love hard numbers. I like realistic experiences because not only are we here, Scott, to provide hope to someone that might think that that's not even possible. I've been doing this for 30 years. My clients have only like me. I can't hire any
that's a mindset.
Yeah, I can't hire any employees. There's no one that does good work. They're all entitled.
Those are all just thoughts.
Right, exactly. But they're real thoughts from a lot of listeners, right?
I had those thoughts. I had those thoughts, all of them. Everything you said, we used to go through my head.
Yeah, if I leave, my clients will leave me. They're only here in my firm because I've been working with them for 30 years. I can't trust.
Yeah, I had to get over myself in order to get past all that. I had to get over myself and get out of my own way. And all of those things you're saying was me in my own way. Like that was me telling myself something to not do something. It was like creating a excuse, creating a reason.
Yeah. And how'd you get out of your own way? What are the?
I got over myself.
And how
I realized that I wasn't that important. It took a lot of failures or a lot of things that happened to me for me to get knocked down a few times to have that humility to realize I'm not that important. And it wasn't until I realized the whole team didn't need me for me to get over myself and to realize I'm not needed. It made me depressed for a little while too.
Yeah.
At first, because that was my self-worth. That's where I thought I was good for. And once I realized they are doing better with that. I'm making more money now than I did before when I was working 68 hours a week.
Right. Well, so, like you said, it's a mindset shift. It's a change. Yeah. And I know you said you had to have a lot of failures. What did one look like? What was the failure that said, okay.
We were losing money for a little while. This was something that was happening during the transition. I got a huge failure that happened to me early in life too. Like I've had failures all along the way. So, one of them was we overhired, something that specific, like in the firm, we overhired, and I overestimated what people could do or what they could handle. We were losing money for a few months. Like as I was trying to get myself out of the firm, things were kind of like falling apart. We had turnover. We hired a couple of people. We had no office, and we were just learning how to handle everything remote. There was a lot of chaos early COVID, and I made a lot of mistakes. We had to let 2 people go, and that was hard. And that was when I really started understanding what trust meant in people that work with you, your team. Like the 2 guys that I would always have said are my management team really became my management team during that time. And I started to really trust them with everything, which in turn they trusted me too. So it was through like thinking I was a failure. I mean, if you've ever had to like let people go because you thought you were going to grow, or you thought the business was going to be bigger, or you'd be able to handle that, and then there's a couple months and then they took it on themselves too, and they were losing sleep over it because they knew this was a decision we all had to make. Like I wasn't just doing it myself. It wasn't selfish reasons. Like I need to make more money because they're still getting a paycheck. You know, it wasn't like impacting them if we were losing money as a company.
Right. Yeah. They don't know the difference unless payroll doesn't go through one day.
Yeah. I would never get to that. I mean, I'm pretty good with the money like aspect of it. I probably had like 6 months reserves just in there, but that's my own problems. So there's other things too. But it was like after going through something like that, once you really trust somebody, then I realized I don't need to look over everything they're doing. So I went from one extreme to the other. Like before I was reviewing everything that was happening within the firm. I was looking at like, anything that came across my way, whether it's my email box, I'll use that as the example. Like anything that came in my email box, I looked into it, every angle of it. If a client reached out to me, I looked into, made sure what they asked for got done. And then I made sure it was the right way, and I would review stuff. And it was just
on everything.
And so I cut myself off on email altogether. Like I haven't been in my email. You went
cold turkey. You went from smoking every day to going, no, you're
and
quit.
I've done that in real life too. And that's always worked out for me. Like I go from one extreme to only 2 switches, full on.
Either full on or full off.
Yeah. So and that was the thing.
Before we talk more and get more in depth, let's share the hard numbers. So 13 years ago, what was your revenue, profitability?
So when I started working,
you stepped out, and now you're making more money. So I'm going to assume that's the distributions or dividends that you're taking. So if you can give us some context.
So like, let's say so when I started working at the firm, it was already an existing firm. It was at like 90,000, and it was just one guy, and he was just hiring me as like an extra hand or to do everything he was doing, but so he could do less and he could travel more. He also said to me, one day you could grow this business and probably buy it from me. So he gave me full freedom. Like before that, I worked at CPA firms, and I would get fired because I don't ever really like anybody tells me to do something, I'm going to do it differently, or I'm going to try to do it better. And you can't do that if you're working for a firm. Like you got to do things their way. But this guy, he was just letting me do anything I wanted my way. He was part of a franchise, and he would send me to the franchise headquarters to do sales stuff. And I was questioning everything they were doing for sales. Like they were telling me to go door to door. And I was saying, why are we not marketing online? Like, and this was, maybe 12 years ago, 13 years ago, probably, maybe 14, not sure. But it seemed obvious to me, like that's what everybody's doing now. But then they said, no, that'll never work. So I started to question everything they were telling me. Once I heard that, so I'm part of a system that he is, franchise, and we're questioning everything. We're doing everything differently. And I started to notice that was what that was to my advantage. I was doing everything differently. And I'm supposed to be giving you numbers, and I just started telling a story. So
it's all good. Let's get back to the numbers. 90,000 in revenue at the beginning.
90 we start, and we changed the game, and we grew from 90 to like 550 pretty quick when I started changing everything. So in 550, around that 500 range is when you start running into new problems. And he was absent at that point. He was not really like in the business at all. And we hired a couple people, and they just replicated what I was doing. And I bought it from him around that stage. And then we went from 550 to 1.2 million within a couple of years. Like it wasn't even that long. Might have been like a year or two. I think we grew 400 in 1 year. And then we just kept growing like that, but it was just replicating the same job. So hiring more people to do the same things, and everybody was doing everything for their clients. And we thought that was the way to go. Like that's what we were supposed to do, because then the client feels taken care of.
Right.
It wasn't until later when we got stuck at like 1.2 million for like, I think 6 years. almost. We were just there. It was like a ceiling that we hit and we couldn't get past it. And that's because my hand was in everything. I still was like the gatekeeper for everything we did and every decision that was made and all of it. Even as I got out of the client work, which I still had my hand in a lot of it anyway.
Client work, emails, phone
sales,
calls. You were probably like listening in. You were like the FBI of your firm.
I don't know about that. I wasn't that bad. Like they actually even then, like once I get out of something, I fully get out and they have full autonomy. So they don't call me micromanager at all unless I'm in there, unless I'm doing it. Like right now, they like me better than they did before. So I think, to a degree, because I was reviewing everything, they knew I was always looking over the shoulder, but I was also wanting to change things too. Like I would always be running in one direction and then running in another. We're going to do this. We're going to do this with zero. And like, that's what helped propel our growth was all of the crazy things I was doing and experimenting with. That's why we grew so fast, because we were just, everything was inbound. We had so many different channels of like inbound leads just through our tech partners. So that was like, it was so easy to grow, and it still is. There's so many different channels you can market to, or there's things you can do to grow, but it wasn't growth. That was like, I was hitting the ceiling. I felt like I wasn't growing either because it was just stuck. Like everything we would have turnover. Business was stuck and I couldn't get over it until I got over myself. And it wasn't until COVID that happened.
So it took 6 years for you to get over yourself and then step out. And then, so what happened and where you at
nobody
now?
told me to get over myself. I just was doing the wrong things.
Out.
I had to figure it out by making all these mistakes. Every new thing was a different thing. And I thought like I could tell myself that I was out of everything. I wasn't doing any of this stuff, but I was still in it, mentally, fully in it. So I had to shift that. And that was COVID. We went to Mexico before COVID happened. And we got stuck there. My wife's from Mexico, so we usually go there for a month out of the year anyway. And that was the month we were going. And we ended up just staying there when everything crazy happened and everything shut down. The place we were in Mexico, the village we were in, was it was wide open because it was it's a remote village. There wasn't anything to shut down. Like people were living off the land there. It's so it's pretty disconnected from the world anyway. So we were already like socially distanced from the world. And we stayed there for like 4 months and the team just went on. Yeah, they just went on and just kept doing. Like they were able to work remotely because, there's a couple of days a week that they were allowed to do that. So they just started working from home. And I would go on just the team meetings, like on the phone, because I didn't even really have internet there.
You were forced to step out.
I was. I mean, we could have flown back. I think there was a way, but we weren't trying to fight that. We knew what we were going into.
The humanitarian flights. I almost got stuck in Peru, but we were out through Bolivia. But they started like 2 months later doing humanitarian flights where you still had to pay a ticket and the U.S. sent a plane to come get all the Americans.
Yeah, it wasn't like that with us. We could have got on a flight. We knew, and we just kept pushing our flight back. And even the flight we did get on, we were the only people on the plane and the only people in the airport. And that was like 4 months later.
Wow.
That was crazy. I got pictures of like the ghost town airport. It's Mexico City airport. It's always crowded. And this was like middle of the day, empty. Wow. Crazy. So
this was like a blessing in disguise for you because you got pushed out. You just said, I'm going to just spectate and watch, maybe show up to the team meeting. And since COVID, what has the firm done up until now?
So we finally eclipsed that 1.2 and got to like 1.5, I think 1.8. And that was when I was finally like out. So we had probably our best year ever. I made over $500,000 last year, like profit take home for me, even after paying everybody and doing everything because of like other things like ERC. But it was like the best year ever, followed by previous was probably one of the worst years ever. The year we had to let people go and losing money, and followed that up with like the most profitable we've ever been. So we were at like 1.7, I think, and I cleared like 550, something like that. So you can do the math there. That's like pretty healthy margin.
Yeah, like 30%, 35, something around there.
Yeah. So the things are just coasting along. I mean, I'm probably not going to replicate that year this year, but I haven't done anything. I probably sit in on 20-minute meetings a couple times a week
Well,
just to see if they need me.
And I think that's the most important thing to take away is that you got creative, you made mistakes. COVID, in your case, helped you. And sometimes we have to back off our team to let them shine so they can
Yes.
take ownership. And then now you can go and work on your other projects like County High and rapping and now starting to monetize the podcast and generate more revenue still while taking 500,000 a year from the business that you're not even
Probably going to be 400 after like ERC type.
So let's just call it,
it was padded. That 550 was like padded. Yeah.
400,000 with doing 20-minute meetings every couple weeks or once a week. Just really high level overseeing this operation.
Honestly, it's me sharing my rap stuff with them or talking about the podcast. That's what, whenever I'm on a meeting with them, I'm talking about everything I'm doing. And I'm like, do you guys need me for anything? No, we're good, but we might need you to sign this or do this or whatever, like little things.
So what would you share, Scott, from these experiences that for someone who's in their way, because I feel like that's just the theme that's gotten the growth that you wanted and that I know a lot of other people are craving. They're craving, I want to have a good team that I can trust, that I can rely on, like you had shared. And to realize that you're not that important, even though you think you're building a business all around you.
So you got to create that space. Like for me, it was in Mexico and I had the space away from everything to really understand what I wanted and listen to what your subconscious is always driving anyway. If you do pay attention, you can connect all those dots to see what you really want. Just have to ask yourself and figure that out and then work backwards from there. That's what happened with me, but I had that space to do that. If I was still stuck in here, imagine if I wasn't in Mexico at the beginning of COVID, I would have been the one moving from the office or telling people they had to come back into the office because I was fine doing it. I probably would have done some stupid stuff like that. So hindsight, I could see hindsight is 2020, no pun or joke intended, but like I could look back on 2020 and be very grateful for the way it went down because like you said, I was kind of like forced into it. So how do you force yourself?
Yeah. How do you force yourself? So if you had to do it without COVID,
how do you force yourself to unplug from that? It's so hard. I mean, for me, I also did it I did it again after because I kept getting in my own way, even after I got out of my way in the firm, but getting in my own way for all this other new stuff I'm doing. The show, the podcast, everything, every aspect of life, you're in your own way. So it's just layers of that. And then, the way I got over it the next time was like making more mistakes and learning from that and learning that you can't just like, I don't know like anything specific, but like there's
I like
moment you gotta like I started meditating like there's a lot of things I started working on myself and that's really
working on yourself is one way to do it and you used a tool of meditation, so I think that's a great takeaway.
So there was 12 things that I was tracking every day last year and I was really in on the habits. Like I had all my habits in.
Let's hear all 12 because these are the things that maybe you're not going to track all 12, but this is what gets you out of your way.
Yeah.
Be it with the podcast or any element in your life. Granted, the big one was COVID and you just had to stay in Mexico and be off the, off the grid.
I'll admit I haven't been doing these and I did them for like a year straight and I tracked all 12 every day for the whole year. So the first one was write one line. First one was write one line. So it was like either a rap or just write something like some gratitude type thing or, be thankful for something. Write one line. 2 was read 2 pages of a book. So keep them. This was like the whole Atomic Habits theory of like keeping it easy. So reading 2 pages, it could lead you to reading a whole chapter, but just a minimum of 2 every day. 3 is track 3 habits. So actually go into this little book that I had and track 3 of the habits. If I didn't track it, then I can't check that box either. And it feels good to check the boxes. All of the boxing thing is like psychological too, to see how long you could do it for.
Accomplishment.
Oh yeah. We love that, especially accountants. 4 is meditate. What was 4? 4 is don't get high before 4:20. So each one is numbered and like playing on the number. So, and I was for a while when I got out of the firm, I was getting high during the day all the time and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't like function. I wasn't, maybe I could do stuff. I could fool myself into thinking I could do stuff, but that's a whole nother story.
Not at
But
the
that was
level you wanted to.
not at
the
a high performance
clarity.
level.
Right.
Exactly. Not at a high performance level. So I cut off after 420. And if I did, then I couldn't check that box. Right. So 5 was 5 push-ups a day, but that turned into like 30, 40, 50, like depending on the day, but at minimum of 5. Granted, I don't do any of these anymore. I write and I read, but not really like as much as I did. But these were great. I meditated for 6 minutes or 6 breaths a day. Exercise for at least 7 minutes of like harder exercise, because I also walk a lot. 8 hours of sleep. I still do that every day for sure. Sleep is the most important out of all these. And then 9 is shut down.
That.
Yeah, for sure. 9 was shut down at 9 p.m. Like no inputs, no phone, no screens, nothing after 9 p.m. so I could fall asleep.
I do that one too.
Yeah, that's a good one. I let that back in and now I can't sleep. Like I got to go back to that. I got to keep up with that one again. So 10 o'clock or 10 is like 10,000 steps a day at least. And 11 is be in bed by 11. And 12 was fast until 12. Actually, you know what? 12 is going to be fast until 12 when I start doing it again. But 12 was hit my stand ring for 12 hours of the day. You know the stand ring? Like if you have an Apple Watch.
I don't have an Apple Watch.
Okay, well,
I don't
have an
need
Apple
another
Watch, you know,
thing to look at.
I know. Well, if you have an Apple Watch, I needed 12 things to look at just to keep myself on track. Like I don't track any of these anymore, but man, I was in good shape. Everything was good. But
I think a lot of people tracked a lot of things during COVID and then it went away. But I think these are things that are important that if you're, my guess, from what I'm hearing from our conversation today, is that if you're stuck in your own way and you're not able to step away from the firm, let your team take control, build that trust so you can not work 60, 80-hour weeks anymore and still take home $400,000 a year and have the firm keep growing its revenue without you being there, because originally you thought, you know, I'm the most important person. My clients are coming to this firm because of me, when in reality, that wasn't the case. They came because of the experience that you created, and they came because of the team that you've built and the trust that you allowed to create within that team and that culture for them to take the leadership role. And anytime that you feel like you're getting in your way, these are the 12 things that you would fall back on to say, okay, all right, you know, I'm not going to bed at 11. I'm looking at my phone now after 9, and now you don't have the best sleep anymore. Yeah. And how all of these things take a toll on us on a daily basis and has an impact on our revenue, has an impact on our productivity, and has an impact on probably our mood.
You know, I'm just floating right now too. Like every day I just get to choose what I want to do. And sometimes it's real frustrating. At first I felt real guilty about everything. Like everybody's working for me and I'm not doing anything. I feel real guilty. Like I felt like I needed to be doing something, filling my time, like especially not being in email. And I stopped going into Slack. I don't even go into Carbon. So I felt so disconnected and I felt guilty, or my mind would create these stories of things that could be happening, when in reality, everybody's happier than they've ever been, especially my team. Yeah. Like, so that was, and now every day, like I've been just working on different wraps for different, now I'm working on one for a new event coming up. And that's what keeps me energized. I'm doing some shit with my kids too. Sorry, excuse my language.
I'm doing all good. Let's hear the rap. I want to hear the one from the other day.
All right. So I was getting into, I'm doing some stuff with my kids, but I think I told you that on one of our episodes. So I'll lead people to that. We did a series with Michelle on At Accounting High. So check those out, how to make varsity. And there were some conversations in there about the raps too.
But now we're actually all going to hear what.
And we got a video for this too.
Owners, you know, they want to crochet more. They want to spend time with family. They want to golf. I can't tell you how many clients want to golf more.
Yeah, quit golf.
Yeah,
I used to want to golf more. I used to, but then,
you could golf every day if you wanted to. If you,
oh God, I could golf 3 times a day every day and still have time. Yeah, this is how much time I spend on these wraps, though. So this one took me a lot of time. I know people talk about tracking time. I didn't track my time on this, but I know it took me at least like 4 full days of just working on it, probably more. I got a video for it, and you could check that out at Accounting High TV on YouTube. But the track, you can probably put a link in the show notes too. But the track is Soar the Sky.
All right.
This is for Scaling New Heights. I knew, like, I wrote this for the performance. It's a parody, so I didn't really write the whole thing.
You gonna soar the sky, get up off the floor and start to fly. You'll scale new heights with an OKR in accounting high. You gonna soar the sky, get up off the floor and start to fly. You'll scale new heights with an OKR in accounting high. Send bookkeeper still watching the clock. Water schooling you with his new workshops. Feet on the street, St. Louis, peep the soar theme. Attendees will flock. Now let's go. Check the presentation. Cutting edge education, sparking innovation. Scope creep friction, shaking foundation. Process improvement, increased production. With automation and AI, no flapping wings, you'll be soaring high. At scaling new heights, you'll touch the sky. Combine new tools to help your practice shine. Joe in his prime, founded in '09. 3 cheers, 14 years, and tears he's cried. A keynote legend, Joe devotees, super fans at Evi's obsession. You're gonna soar the sky, get up off the floor and start to fly. You'll scale new heights with an OKR and accounting high. You're gonna soar the sky, get up off the floor and start to fly. Yeah. You'll scale new heights with an OKR in accounting. Scale new heights.
I love it.
Transforming the world in accounting. Transforming the world. We gonna soar the sky. Get up off the floor and start to fly. We'll scale new heights with an OKR and accounting high. Accounting high STL.
Yeah,
Soar
I
the
bet
sky.
they do.
Get up off the floor and
This is
start
their
to fly.
favorite. It's not my favorite.
We'll
but
scale new heights
this next
with an
verse is
OKR
fun.
in accounting. Yes. Profession leaders. Let's go hear from some fresh teachers. Amelia Earhart, Jeff Seabird, Jelaine St. Juice, Lisa Beaver, Denise Grove, Kat Sloan, Kat Gross Kerr, Ronald B. Randall C. Kless, Brolin Woodard, Brock Ball, Davis, Darrell, Deb DeFur, Kreider, Heather Davis, Bell, Heather Satterlee, Joel Kyle, Jen Diamond, Sarah Laidlaw, Michelle Long, Mike McCallowitz, Bill Key, Edstrom, Trish Tate, Luth Day, Cole Allison, Ball with Michelle, Vims Gonzalez, Aguilar, Paul Well, Ernest Cook, and Kay Parks, Nicholas Christians, Esther F. Burkhart. So many more presenters. Now let me in my verse right before the shit starts. Like, we gonna soar the sky, get up on the floor and start to fly. We'll scale new heights, Woodard, OKR, and accounting high. Accounting high, STL, soar the sky, get up off the floor and start to fly. We'll scale new heights, Woodard, OKR, and accounting high. Gonna fly, baby. New heights, scared. Thing, 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 new heights, counting high, counting high, counting high, counting high, accounting high. Keep it soaring. And I go by the name of OKR. That's OK Rapper. Yeah. Feels good to be Joe, baby. Feels good to be Joe.
KR. That's what the line that got the most laughs. When it was like 1,500 people there, and nobody stood up like I thought they would. There's a bunch of accountants. Like,
yeah, I wouldn't.
A lot of people came up to me. They like, I know they loved it. Like, people did love it, but it wasn't like they were going to stand up and go
and
crazy.
Dance.
But
yeah,
it wasn't
probably
that kind of crowd.
Yeah.
I bet you they would have stood up if I told everybody to stand up. Like, that's one thing I should have done, because then they might have let loose a little bit more. But they loved it, man. A lot of people sent me pictures, and they were coming up to me all throughout, like after the conference. And it was just great. I got to meet so many new people because they came up to me. Like, normally you're just walking around and nobody really notices you or says anything to you at a conference. So I just felt really special. That was dope. Had some great conversations.
I guess you didn't feel disconnected anymore.
I didn't. No, I felt very connected.
You felt very connected.
Yeah, that was
amazing what happens when we put our focus and our passion and the things that we want to do. So back to like what I was saying, there's so many firm owners that I talk to, and they're not doing what they want. They're postponing vacations. They're not seeing and spending time with their kids. And you're doing projects with your kids now, and you're doing this, and you're golfing, and you're still taking
No, I'm not
out.
golfing. I'm doing this. This is
Well,
what I'm doing. I
this
have
is
to.
what
I
you're
have to
doing.
like. This is the existential crisis I'm going through. Is do I really need this like country club membership anymore if I'm not going to use it? Like I'm paying for it and I'm not using it. I'm not doing anything
Yeah,
with
and
it.
some of those things are like 15, 25 grand a month for a country
It's
club
not
membership.
cheap. It's not cheap.
Not.
I need to like I can repurpose that money. And so I'm doing stuff with my kids. And it was going to be like I wanted to play golf with my son and spend time
Yeah.
doing that with him.
Yeah.
But we're writing raps together. So we're taking Dr. Seuss books and we're doing parodies of Dr. Seuss books with songs that like fit it. So the first one we did is Jay-Z and Kanye's Ham, but it's like hard as a MF. Like that's what ham means in the real song. And it's a pretty vulgar song, but we changed all the words to green eggs and ham. So it plays the parts of like my son is Sam I am, and I'm Guy I am. That's the other guy's name. And we played out the whole book in that song, and it was a straight up parody. So everywhere they said ham, they already said ham a lot in that song anyway. So we just added green eggs and ham.
That's so awesome. But
so he's been learning how to rap. He's 9, so that's been fun.
That's so cool. But you're doing the thing instead of just talking about it.
Oh
you're
yeah.
Spending that.
Well, I talked about it for a long time.
Exactly, but
before
you had to get out of your way.
Yeah.
And for you, Mexico and COVID helped you get out of your way. So for those of you that didn't have an experience like that with COVID, or every day you're micromanaging the team and you're in all the emails and you feel like you can't step away from your firm because every client in your firm is there just because of you. Maybe it's time to think of what's your list of 12 things you want to do. What are those habits that you can start to work on to start to get out of your own way? And I think, Scott, if there's anything else you want to leave the listeners with today, what would be that one other thing that could help get them out of their own way so they can grow the firm?
The 13th habit.
13th habit.
The one that I haven't written yet.
Yeah. The unknown one that we haven't heard yet.
Be present in life. Like if you could be present with your team or with anybody, like, and understand, like, pay attention to where you're at and who you're with, and not be thinking about what you're going to do or what you didn't do or what happened and all those other things. If you can just be present, you can give so much more too, and you'll get so much more back. Like in any conversation, interaction, if you're trying to do a couple things at once, like you're even on Zoom calls and you got one other screen open or you have your alerts on, like turn off your alerts. That's another thing too. I have no alerts for anything in life at all anymore. Like occasionally I'll download an app.
iWatch.
Even with, so the alerts I have are the only ones that are like intentional. Like my calendar, I had to keep on because I kept missing meetings. So I needed my calendar. So I live everything by my calendar. I don't go into email. I don't even get text alerts. Phone calls will come through, but I don't usually pick up my phone because it's never anybody I know. And there's nothing, like there's nothing but a calendar thing. Sometimes airlines will, I got to keep that on because I don't want to miss my flight. I missed a flight recently. So it wasn't because I changed. I don't have my alerts. I did have the alerts, but I changed my phone to be on the 24-hour clock instead of the normal thing.
Yeah.
I did it because I was with a lot of people from Europe and I was like, this seems to make sense. And I miscalculated the time. It was like 17 and I thought that was maybe 7 and it was like 8. I don't know. It was a mess. So don't do stupid things like me. I mean, I do a lot.
Be present, Scott. Be present.
That's the one. That's the one.
That's the one. And I think, we'll end it with that. And it's an honor to have you here on the Abundant Accountant podcast. If you have not listened to Accounting High, that's probably something you should go subscribe to that right now and start listening, especially to the episodes that we did together. There were so many. Dope. I think we did 5 or 6. I don't even remember. Mm-hmm. What were they called again?
5 weeks in a row. How to make varsity.
How to make varsity. So you can find them on Accounting High. And Scott, thank you so much for being here with us today on the Abundant Accountant podcast. And, to go from 90,000, acquire the firm at the 550 mark, and now be at like 1.7 and working maybe 25 minutes a week on that business or in that business. It's pretty impressive. So kudos to you. And thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you all so much for joining Scott and I here on another amazing episode of the Abundant Accountant Podcast. It's always an honor to spend some time here with you twice a month. And, I think a lot of firm owners that I speak to want some variation of what Scott has. But every firm owner that I've ever worked with, their success started from taking one major step. That major step for some of you might be heading on over to theabundantcall.com to book your free session so we can look at what's holding you back. Where are you stuck? Where do you want to take your firm, but avoid all the pitfalls and failures like Scott did? And how can you double, triple your revenue just like Scott did? And by booking this call, I promise you it'll turn into more confidence. It'll turn into more clients paying premium fees. It will turn into less burnout and actually being excited for the future of your firm. So head on over to theabundantcall.com. Stop settling for less. You can create the abundant firm and start living the life that you know you deserve. And the time for change is now. Scott was lucky and he had COVID and getting stuck in Mexico. That's when his change occurred. For some of you, the change might be going to theabundantcall.com and booking that free session with me and my team. I hope to speak to some of you soon. And if I don't, remember his number 13 habit, be present. Where can you be more present in your life with your team so you can give so much more to others and feel so less pressured? And I'll leave you with that. Thank you all again for being here with us today on the Abundant Accountant Podcast. It's an honor to be here, and I'll see you all in the next episode.